The crypto market right now is going absolutely crazy. And this is something that I've always talked about in the past as well. When we really think about how quick things can change almost overnight in crypto, it never ceases to amaze me how many people are shocked by that literal thing happening. Overnight, the entire market, especially around altcoins, just went crazy. We could actually see Bitcoin trading at about roughly $118,000, Ethereum around roughly $3,000, and most of the altcoins in the last 24 hours are up in a massive way. XLM, the fourth largest gainer out of the top 100, up about 25%, almost 26% in the last 24 hours. In the last 7 days, we're up about 55%. Now, we do have a confirmation of a big breakout on XLM, which I will talk about, but I do want to talk about the overall volume here because we're up about 50% in terms of trading volume, almost crossing $1 billion in the last 24 hours. XLM right now is going crazy, and we're actually still up about 300+% in the last 1 year. But this is a beautiful sign because we are starting to see that breakout of the downtrend. And this is where we actually start to target some of the previous highs. We broke over the May highs, which is a higher high on the macro chart, which is bullish structure. And now we're starting to clear some major resistance going back to February and March. The next highs that we actually target are the January highs above 50 cents and then above 60 cents back in November. This is very good to see. Now, like I said, it's mainly altcoins that are going crazy right now, and that's because we're starting to see the altcoin season index move a bit. Bitcoin dominance is still pretty high, right? We're sitting at about roughly 63 or so, but we are starting to see this drop, which is exactly what we want to see. We want to see the altcoin market steal the show going forward and see dominance on Bitcoin continue to fall off. This is actually going to allow for altcoins like XLM, for an example, to have these types of moves, but almost every single day, leading to a new all-time high on the macro, which if we actually look at the all-time high on XLM, this was 8 years ago at about 94 cents. Once we clear 94 cents, I do think that XLM is going to shock a lot of people because price discovery on altcoins during alt season, that's where the most violent moves on the price chart actually happen. And if you're getting excited about some of these recent moves on XLM, like for example, being up 50+% in the last 7 days, 30+% in the last 1 month, guess what? These are very small moves compared to price discovery in the middle of alt season. Now let's actually talk a little bit about the price chart for XLM. So this is what the USD chart looks like for XLM. So the main thing that I was watching, and if you are a part of the Discord, the premium side of the Discord, then you are aware of this chart breakdown. The main thing that we were looking at was the bottom back in April. This was the confirmed bottom of the market. Even Bitcoin, and I don't know if we're going to be able to see this. Let me actually make sure that we have the candle bodies on. This is the 1 year. Here we have the April bottom. April was the bottom for the entire market. XLM is not shy to this. We did have a double bottom back in the middle of June, but as you guys can see, we technically actually have a higher low scenario here going off of the wicks. The best part about this is we now have higher highs, which is very bullish. If you guys have watched the channel, or even if you're a part of the free Discord, this is something that we were watching even on Bitcoin back in 2024. If you guys do remember, everyone was getting very bearish from roughly, the March of, let's actually go back on the all-time chart because it's going to be a little bit challenging to look at this. I just want to go back to 2024. I know that I don't have the candle bodies here, but you guys can pretty much make out what I'm talking about here. So back in 2024, when we hit the March high and we started to sell off, everyone was getting so bearish during this entire time. But what we were looking at was on the chart, it was higher lows and higher highs. That's what confirmed that we were going to break out even more on Bitcoin and that we shouldn't be bearish. So then when September came, we started to look at the price action. We started to heat up towards the end of September. Again, no clear breakout over the previous highs. by the end of October into the beginning of November, we were already extremely bullish on Bitcoin, and the entire market already bottomed out, and we were starting to have that next big impulsive move, which is what led XLM to actually having these moves back here in November. Now, when we look at XLM right now, we're clearing out some of the previous highs. We're into the higher high scenario. We have higher lows. XLM could not be any more bullish right now. And even the XLM Bitcoin pair, as you guys can see, this is where everyone gets peak bearish right here. We have this massive extended downtrend, and almost everyone's like, all right, well, that's it. XLM is done. We're going into the bear market again. XLM's not doing anything. I'm going to sell XLM and jump into this meme coin or jump into this altcoin. That's where everything happens, right there in that pocket where we are squeezing in this downtrend, and then boom, that big impulse move happens. We have a clear confirmation of a breakout across Bitcoin and even the USD pair here. This is very exciting stuff. And I do think that this is just the beginning, like I said, especially with Bitcoin dominance still being above 60+%. We have quite some time to just kind of sit back and relax now. We don't need to panic. We don't need to worry. We don't need to be frustrated. We could just relax and watch the price action. And a lot of altcoins right now are just going insane. XRP is back to $2.90. We love to see that. And I just think that altcoins are going to continue to break out. Now, why is XLM so bullish, right? Well, tokenization. Think about tokenization. XLM has been losing a few slots here because of course, Aptos and Solana getting a large amount of tokenized RWAs released on their networks, but XLM is still in the top 5, which we love to see. I mean, listen, Stellar was one of the first major networks to see a very large institutional release of tokenized RWAs on it. And even today, we still have, $455 million tied to Stellar. They still, their goal here is to scale that to, $1+ billion by the end of the year. We're definitely going to be focused on that. I think that they actually won at $5 billion. I believe that was the number that they were throwing out. Obviously, it's still a little bit, early in the year, but we're kind of getting closer to the end of the year. So I don't know if they're going to hit those numbers, but I could definitely see $1 billion on Stellar by the end of this year, depending on the partnerships and the announcements that we see. Now, most of those announcements will be at major events, which, if we do have time in this video, I will talk about some of the upcoming huge events for Stellar to actually watch for. But the main thing also is, just the growth of the ecosystem for Stellar. We know that they have been, announcing more and more projects launching on Stellar ever since, if we go back to, I think it was like 2022, 2023, roughly. Sorobon really kind of accelerated everything around Stellar. And even today, it's been very successful. We've been seeing a lot of integrations around Stellar, a lot of projects as well, mainly around remittances and payments. But that's the bread and butter for a lot of these networks is payments. Payments is always the killer use case around crypto currently, but I do think that will evolve as time goes on. Payments will lead into yield generation products through DeFi, institutional DeFi offerings. We'll start to see more tokenized initiatives around like real estate and stocks and bonds, things like that. And I do think that a lot of these networks like Stellar, for example, are going to be, the homes for a lot of that stuff. But when we think about stablecoins on Stellar, there's about 6. And there's over 500 and almost 20,000 stablecoin holders on Stellar. Now, we do know that there's about 7 or 8 stablecoins actually on Stellar, but they have yet to get counted on RWA.xyz. But stablecoins are also a big focus here. But I mainly want to talk a little bit about tokenization because if we actually look at the list here, there is quite a bit of things tokenized on Stellar. The total amount here for really kind of accounting for stablecoins and everything, it's actually well over $600 million on Stellar right now, which is great to see. I do think that this is going to continue to evolve as well. I think that we're going to start to see more players actually tokenizing on these public ledgers. We already know that public blockchains are the key for a lot of these institutional use cases. And the focus here has now kind of shifted from private to public anyways, with JP Morgan announcing JPMD. So I do think that Stellar is going to be a prime player for this. And if we actually look at the stablecoins here, you guys can see all of the stablecoins down here. We've gone over them in the past. Now, talking more so about that, let's actually address a few things. Number one, tokenization. Stellar recently announced RWA tokenization continues to scale. In fact, 5 to 10% of the global asset market is predicted to be digitized by 2030. But with that growth has come fragmented payment platforms. WisdomTree launched WisdomTree Prime to seamlessly integrate fiat and digital payments for users. Now, if you guys do know, yes, WisdomTree is actually a player that has built out their application using Stellar. It's actually, fully integrated with Stellar. And WisdomTree already has quite a bit of money on Stellar. I know it's only about 9.1 million, but they have been tokenizing on Stellar for also about 2 or 3 years now. So WisdomTree is aware of the efficiencies of the Stellar ecosystem. Also, WisdomTree did say juggling a wallet for spending, apps for investing, an account for saving, and more. Exhausting. WisdomTree Prime combines saving, spending, and investing in one seamless app experience built on blockchain infrastructure because it is built on Stellar. And that's through WisdomTree Prime. Why fragment finance when you can combine it? And again, WisdomTree Prime, they only have about 3,400 followers, but WisdomTree themselves is massive. If you guys know about some of these names, these are the big players. These are institutional giants. Even WisdomTree themselves has over almost $500 million in terms of total value on chain. They have been advancing tokenization for quite some time, and they're right on the same path as, like, for an example, Franklin Templeton or any other major asset management company out there. Outside of tokenization, though, let's actually think about stablecoins for a bit. We think of the stablecoin base layer as a checking account for this new type of finance. DeFi allows users to build more financial instruments to make these a savings account equivalent. Yeah, when we think about stablecoins, when we think about tokenization, it doesn't just stop at, all right, we have stablecoins, that's it. Or it doesn't stop at, all right, well, we have tokenized things on chain, that's it. No, that's just the beginning part of the big revolution, right? Stablecoins actually enable everything happening around DeFi, around institutional DeFi. It enables and unlocks so much utility for the underlying networks, and it also creates a large amount of demand for the underlying networks. We've talked about this with a lot of the stablecoin boom that's been happening around Ethereum, for an example, or other networks. We could actually look at the networks here. Ethereum is number 1 with 51 RWAs, and it's the home for most of the DeFi space. When we think about the coincidence here for Ethereum, it's not a coincidence at all that Ethereum is like the number 1 network for DeFi use cases, meanwhile having all of these stablecoins in this space on it. That means that Ethereum has the most liquid stablecoin market, which means that DeFi can live and breathe in a huge way on Ethereum. I do think that will start to shift, though. I think that a lot of these other networks are starting to gain a lot of momentum around stablecoin initiatives, which is unlocking more utility and allowing for DeFi and even tokenization to start to scale in a big way. Right now, if we think about stablecoins, stablecoins are huge. We closed in almost on $3 trillion in monthly transfer volume last month, and currently we're up to about $243 billion in market cap. I actually think that figure is incorrect, but if we really think about where we're at right now in this market around stablecoins and even tokenization, we're just barely scratching the surface. Stablecoins just got announced this year of becoming 1.1% of the M2 supply globally. That's just the beginning. We passed the 1% level. I said it even with tokenization as well. If we actually go back to the market overview, right now we're at about $25.44 billion. This continues to accelerate in a huge way. The second that we surpass like 50 billion and then 100 billion, the steps up just get steeper and steeper and steeper. Just for an example, look at these steps from roughly February of this year, where we're at 16 billion, compared to, the end of February. We got $3 billion added to the total RWAs on chain. And this quickly scaled to where we're at now. These markets are starting to evolve in a huge way. We're starting to see more and more increased adoption. We're starting to see things scaling a bit faster. And this is only going to accelerate more as more of the institutional side of the TradFi markets start to come on chain. We've been hearing from Robinhood that they want to tokenize in a huge way. The SEC is allowing it. We're starting to see regulators lighten up around crypto. I think that we are about to witness this entire market evolve in a very bullish way. More bullish than ever before, and we're starting to see that focus put on utility-based assets as well. And I think that that's very clear by just the overall moves on XLM or even on XRP. We're starting to see the altcoin market race to the upside to catch up with Bitcoin as well. And even though we're still in that typical 4-year cycle of hype and speculation, I do think that this space will soon get into that utility phase of the market, where utility is the main thing that creates value for these projects. And during that time, I think XLM is going to be a huge winner. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.